Scripture for this evening is Proverbs chapter 20 and verse number 4. Proverbs chapter 20, verse number 4. Something happened recently that piqued my attention. Kanye West, for those who don't know who Kanye West is an entertainer, also a businessman, came out with a new brand of shoes called Yeezy. The cost of those shoes estimated to be about $200. A week or so ago, they went on sale at 7 a.m. At 7:01 a.m., they sold out. Nike continues to sell the Air Jordan gym shoes, and in fact are the best-selling shoes of all time. We can go on and on about the material wealth, if that's what you want to call it, in our community, of people spending so much money on things that really have no value. It adds no value. It brings no value. And there is no future value. What is interesting is that these products are most sold to the people who can least afford them. What is also interesting is that these products tend to be made in third world countries at a rate of less than $10 and tend to be sold, as in this case, for $200. There's something wrong in our community when we don't take ownership for some of the problems that we deal with. Certainly there are systemic issues, there are race issues, there are injustices, there are things that we march about, we give rousing speeches about. There are things that we hope to see change in the legislative process. But some things we need to do better, and we need to do for ourselves. Studies have shown that delaying gratification brings about greater results. When they have done studies starting back in the 60s, and having chronicled the people who are participants in those studies as children, those who learned to delay gratification tended to do better academically, socially, and professionally. So perhaps we need to reevaluate our desire for immediate gratification with material things and to look at a long-term picture. Think of it in terms of Proverbs 20 and verse 4, which says, "The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing." We have to teach the value of thinking ahead, the value of working, the value of seasons. You see this example in Proverbs 20 and 4 talks about plowing in the cold. There are seasons for everything in the context of farming. There are seasons for planting, seasons for resting, seasons for watering, for plowing. There's a season for harvest. But many people want to harvest without the planting and the resting and the watering and doing the things that are necessary, like the plowing, the hard work. If we're going to get better outcomes in our community, we have to take off the shackles of debt, the shackles of having in our closets expensive wardrobes, but not having savings accounts, emergency funds. We have to teach our children about not only buying $200 gym shoes, But what about teaching them to own stock in companies that sell those shoes? Do we have college funds? Do we have retirement savings? When we look at the seasons, we should look at this also in terms of a financial season, just as there's a farming season. There's a season for earning. There's a time for saving. There's a time for investing. And there's a time for spending. Many people are too long in the season of spending and not enough time in earning and saving and investing. People make decisions impulsively. They make decisions and they react. We have to learn that our value and our worth does not come from material things. This is not a condemnation to anyone who likes to enjoy the nicer, finer things in life. This is to say that we have to do better in preparing ourselves long term so that we truly can enjoy the nicer things in life. And while I recognize that the economic crisis caused by the pandemic has adversely and unfairly affected many, not everyone is negatively impacted because of the crisis. Some are negatively impacted because they did not prepare ahead of time for a pending crisis. Sure, they may not have known that the coronavirus pandemic would come, and no one could have guessed it would be of the magnitude that it is. And certainly we understand those who lost jobs, those who were affected in ways beyond their control. This is not a message in regards to those individuals. It is to say that we should always be thinking ahead, always be preparing, and always be mindful of the need to not only satisfy what we want today, but maybe to think beyond today, to look at the big picture, to restrain our impulses, to restrict ourselves from being reactionary, and to think in terms of financial planning, not being a lazy sluggard as mentioned in Proverbs, but being a person who anticipates a harvest by putting the work in. I have been asked by many people in regards to being a new grandfather, how many dollars have I spent on toys and clothes? And to the surprise of some, and then to those who know me, my answer has been zero. But I have started a college fund. And just the same way as I've taught my own children, I'm trying to teach, or will try to teach my own granddaughter, to think beyond toys and games and clothes and all of those fads, but to think long term, to prepare yourself to have a chance, to have an education, to open the doors of opportunity. When you invest in a person, you help them to be self-sufficient, and you help them to be a responsible citizen. When you invest in stuff, like clothes and toys and shoes, you help them today, but you hurt them tomorrow. Plowing time is a time of work, a time of sweat, but it brings about a harvest. Look at your life and look at those who you love and ask yourself, what kind of harvest will you have? It starts with the plowing that you do today. And let's not plow and put our efforts into $200 shoes that sell out in a minute. Let's think long term, the bigger picture. Because again, studies show delayed gratification brings about greater results. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.